Before we get started, I need to get our improvements from last meeting, so I call on Vice Chair Pettus Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I have read through our minutes. I haven't found any problems, so I move that they be approved.
Okay, I have a motion. I got a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Do we have any public comments? We need to confirm Barbara Sutton to the Audit Committee. This is a 4-year term. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. We need to confirm Pettus Reed to the Agricultural Advisory Board, County Commission vacancy, 2-year term. Do I have a motion? Johnson, do I have a second? I got a second. Commissioner Cush. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. We need to confirm the reappointment of Kaye Jernigan to the CCRC Board, 3-year term. I have a motion. Commissioner Johnson, do I have a second? Second, Johnson Beverly. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Next is, are you a no? And Mr. Rather is a no. Okay, 2, please. Next, we need to confirm Kayla Howard to the Records Commission, County Genealogist vacancy, mayor appointment. Do I have a motion? Johnson, do I got a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next, I need to announce 2 Agriculture Advisory Board vacancies, 1 farm woman, 1 farm man, 2-year term. I need to announce 1 Planning Commission vacancy to fill retiring member's term. Term ends August of 2027. Next is a resolution on mineral severance tax. Gentlemen, this resolution is on your iPad, and I'm not going to read it, but I'll explain it to you. We have had a mineral severance tax, which is any minerals taken out of the ground. We've had it in our private act since the 1980s, and we are asking, it's been 15 cents per ton for going on 40 years. So I have been meeting with lobbyists and meeting with representatives of some of the quarries, and they are receptacle for what we are proposing here. So this resolution is asking our delegation to take this and try to get this mineral severance tax. So it is, I don't think I had to read it, but I'll need to have your approval for us to send this resolution on to the county commission. So do I have a motion to do so? Do I have a second? Are there any questions? Any discussion? Yes.
I might have missed. What are we proposing from 15 to what?
15 to 30.
Thank you.
We're asking to double, and we're also asking to do this to increase it every 5 years, I believe. No. Nick, you wanted to?
Yeah. Just 2 things. Just to clarify, you said 30, and what you meant was 30 cents increase from 15 cents up to 45 cents.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jeff.
And then
it's
also proposing after that initial increase is done to increase it annually based on a CPI index.
So this is we have a motion and we have a second. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, let's move on. Okay, next is our lobbyist report, so I'll ask Will Denami to come up.
Mr. Chairman, while Will's coming up, that severance, that tax that relates to the mineral, that goes to budget, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday night. Is that right?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not sure either. I can check with Mr. Smith, and so if it needs to go to budget for whatever reason, it's not spending any money.
I don't think it needs to go to the budget. It goes straight to the commission, Chairman.
I was just wondering, from a budget perspective, what would be the potential increase to our budget for that?
If we double it, it'll be probably around $500,000 to $600,000 increase per year. If we double it, this right now state law says it has to go through the highway department, but our private act doesn't say that. I mean, we could put it anywhere we want. So it's always went to the highway department. So, and I don't see any reason that would be different, but I feel like we have a good shot this year. It's been killed for the last 4 years, so I've really pushed and tried to get with the lobbyists and talk to them to see if, you know, if we're not wasting our time. So they feel pretty receptive, so I feel pretty good about it.
Good move. Thank you.
Go ahead, Will.
Actually, very positive time, and the things that we've been working on are, you know, on a multi-year effort. I think we're now poised to see some success, and I'm very optimistic. Starting with the sports wagering dollars, which is something that, you know, we talked about, basically a 4-part plan that we were trying to do. Starting with new home construction, but then moving over to real estate transfer tax, moving over to lottery excess revenue, and then moving over to the sports wagering fund. The sports wagering dollars are included right now in the current proposal for the vouchers. There's talk about a special session. We're not sure, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen if it's regular session, special session, but we'll know soon enough. We're optimistic that there is going to be some movement as well on the lottery excess funds and also the real estate transfer tax. And the real estate transfer tax was one of those initiatives that came out directly out of the discussion on where we started with impact fees and ended up with the school facilities tax. So there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Looking forward to the legislature getting back together. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Need to get a resolution for the real estate fee increase, so we need to get that to you for next meeting.
But it's not an increase, so it's just a share. So what
That's what I mean. It goes from 26 to 50. Is that correct?
Right, 50% stay in the county where it's paid. So yeah, so it's everybody who buys a home in the county, the tax they pay doesn't go up. It's just half of it would stay here. So the investment that they're making, half of it would be spent in the community in which they're buying.
So have you heard anything on budget with the state as far as low on revenues?
No. Well, let me characterize this as revenue year over year is growing, but depending on the estimate and which estimate there is, it may be below estimate. But year over year, the revenue is growing. That's going to be the central question. What's going to happen with the budget? But there is a lot of optimism about the economy and what may happen on the federal level. And if there's I think, quite frankly, if we stay in a very strong economic environment, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we've got a very good chance.
Okay, so I'll work on that with Nick and get a resolution on supporting that and get with our delegation as well.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Any questions? Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, guys.
All right, next is our HR report. I'll call Sonia up.
Everyone. So I think you have on your iPad, let me just make sure. So we'll start with the snapshot. And I did it a little different this time. I thought it might be interesting for you to see. I do want to say, like I always try to say, is this is a living document, so all of our numbers aren't in for December, so that we will update that as the additional stuff comes in. But I wanted you to see some of the changes that we had between 2023 and 24. It just lets you see some of the growth in some areas and some of the things that we did better. And so I put that in there just for you to have a look at. As we go through the numbers for the ADA, it stayed pretty the same. We're 83 this year, and we were 84 last year. And this is just where we provide assistance in the courtroom setting and also in our departments. Personnel changes, it was 386 for the total for the year versus 346 last year. The two categories that we saw the biggest change in is there were about 26 more promotions this year than there were last year. And then there were 40 different transfers, so people transferred to new positions or other departments. Audits and recurring number of employees. So for this year, it was 8,749, and last year it was 14. The reason that number's so high is, if you recall, we went to electronic files, and so all of that's added in here for the files. So that shows you how many pieces of paper we touched during the year. Benefits for this year was 243. Last year was 195. The biggest growth is we had provided additional assistance for people for substance abuse, or not substance abuse, people who have requested that we give them some options for programs, not only for them but their families. Grief assistance. Our employees lost 47 members of their families that we knew about this year, and that was an uptick from last year. And then also we had more people looking over their Social Security benefits for the future. Community involvement, 81 activities versus 100. This is just where the employees in HR participate in the community to try to give back for various reasons. So we were under just a little bit this year from last year, but we're still out and about in the community. Events and number of participants this year versus last year. The reason that number's so high is we now can track how many people actually participated in the Christmas tree lighting event, and we had 3,797 people come to the Christmas tree lighting event this year, and that was pretty amazing, actually. So that's the reason that number's so high. And then also we gave out about 70 more awards this year for employee recognition. Leave, the number was 1,705 versus 1,522. We saw an uptick in the number of FMLA claims we had this year, about 200. And we also had a slight increase, about 65 additional people going out on military leave. So that was an increase from last year. Legal stayed around the same. This is just where we have unemployment hearings, complaints, Title VI surveys, and those type things. Offboarding. We offboarded 412 this year, which is down by 66 from last year. So we actually lost less people than we did the year before. Onboarding, the number is larger because we started tracking the number of salary evaluations and special evaluations that we do. So that's why that number is so much higher. Policy changes was slightly down from last year, but Nick, myself, and Eric spent a lot of time looking at handbooks provisions at the end of last year, so that's why that number's different. Promotions and activities, we're about 50 different promotions more this year than we were last year, and these were businesses in the community who wanted to give back to county employees. Recruitment initiatives. We had 15,548 different initiatives and versus last year's 15,257. I do want to note, I don't know that I've ever told y'all this before, but when we post a job, it goes to 25 different job boards. So it's really going out nationwide, worldwide, and then we have 4 additional ways that we advertise for the county. Reports and surveys are around the same, just about 100 different. Primary items that were the biggest for this is our open records request. This year were 2,675, which was down about 1,000 from last year. So we get lots of records requests. The other is our Title VI reports. We had 2,634 requests for interpreters for the courtroom settings or in our departments. That's okay. So Title VI is really grown up. We've got almost 1,000 more requests than we did prior year. And verifications of employment went up by 50. Special projects, those are things that we are either asked to do based upon requests from the commission, from the various committees, or the mayor's request, or just things that we're working on. And we had a few less this year than we did last year, about 2,000. The next question, evaluation and testing stayed around the same. An uptick in what we would expect for the Sheriff's Office, Juvenile Detention and Corrections. Our MMPIs, physicals, and TB testing were up versus last year. The final thing, well, there's two final things. Title VI, I've already talked about that. We had almost 1,000 more requests. The number one languages that we cater to this year, Spanish, we had 2,384 requests, Arabic, 87. Burmese, we had 30 requests, Chinese Mandarin, 10, and Russian, 14. Those were the ones that had the biggest requests for this year. Finally, training. We've trained 5,709 different employees on different activities, whether it be the handbook or leadership training, professional development, or their annual training. And that concludes that report. Are there any additional questions?
Questions?
One of the other things that we have is our job postings. That's on your SharePoint as well, I'm pretty sure. It shows the positions that are posted as of December 30th, and then it also tells the departments how many postings they had, but then by title and how many applications we received as of that date for those postings. I will say on the next page is going to be your full-time vacancies. 2 of those were actually filled today, but I will say that the Sheriff's Office has made wonderful strides. They only have 23, and they had 2 more, so they only have 21 vacancies right now based on their hiring, which is wonderful compared to where it was. And so this is the vacancies that are recently that we're trying to apply for. I mean, that we're asking people to apply for to try to fill. One of the last things that I need to talk about is our open records policy. Every 2 years, we have to, under the Open Records Council, review our records policy just to make sure it's in line. And so Nick and I will be reviewing this and potentially bringing it back. But one thing that we will need to add is our electronic payments. And then also, I talked to the Open Records Council to see if there is anything we can do for those individuals who make records requests and don't pay for those records requests. There is a statute that says, you know, they can't get further requests until they pay for the records that they've already received. But the problem is what they're having is like Commissioner Beverly may ask for the records from their department or as an individual, and if he doesn't pay for the records, he can't get another one, we would deny it. But then Commissioner Rather may ask on Commissioner Beverly's behalf. So I asked the Records Commission, there's really nothing that we can do about that. But there is one other scenario that took place this year is where we had a records request that was requested. We provided the request was paid for, and then the request was rescinded, and it was a considerable amount of money to the county, and they have left that up to the direction of the county on how they want to proceed. And so that may be something that Nick and I need to consider for the handbook, or not the handbook, for the policy when we're making the revisions. And so we'll bring that, he and I will discuss that and bring that back to you.
Mr. Chair, Sonia, a couple of questions. When somebody makes a request, and you know, I'm assuming there's costs in copying somebody's time to go and research records. When a pile of information, if I make a request, any citizen makes a request, when a pile of papers that I have requested comes then to me, do I not pay for them right then and there?
So it kind of depends. So there's a limit. So if it's 10 pages or less, they're free to the requester. It's also how the records are maintained and stored. So if they're stored electronically and we can provide those electronically, there's no cost for that. Where the costs come in the majority of the time is when it's, sometimes a request will come in and based on what they're asking for, and y'all may not know this, but I'm the records coordinator. So what that means is the request comes in and we determine, or I determine, or Lindsay determines who gets that request to fulfill it. So it may end up being 2 or 3 departments. It may be something for building codes and then planning and engineering. So we send it out. So gathering those records in takes time, and then we have to go through and read them and redact them. So a lot of times where the cost comes into play is the time spent gathering the records by the employees within the department of the custodian of the records. Then once they get into our office, the remainder of the expense is spent by us going through and redacting the records. A lot of times the records that are the largest in volume is when it's for a personnel file request of sorts, like if somebody's doing a background check for law enforcement or those type things. Those are usually pretty big files to go through because especially law enforcement does a lot of training and all those type things. So to answer your question is that's where the cost comes into. So we don't, there's 2 ways you can do it. When you see it's going to be a volume of records and we kind of anticipate a cost, we can send them an invoice to say, this is a large request, we're going to need you to pay before we redact. So we can kind of tell based on the number of pages how long it's going to take. And we have them pay before they redact, and then if there's any residual costs, they have to pay that. And so they do have to pay before they get the records. And that's where it comes in. They may ask us to, a lot of times the records that we have that haven't been paid for, are just nominal, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, some of them are $60. But this year we had a larger request that was actually paid for. The requester received the records, and then they rescinded the payment.
So, yeah, tell me how that works. You mean, does that mean like I write you a hot check and I'm not good for it, or what does it mean exactly?
Well, our requesters can pay by cash check, or they can do point and pay, which runs straight through the trustee's office. And so what that is they're either paying by debit or credit. And so if they pay by debit or credit, it's just, what do I want to dispute. So then it becomes the person whose account it's tied to can dispute the payment. And so what happens is then their bank takes that money back from us.
They initiate that dispute
They
after they got the product.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so walk me through that. That sounds like fraud to me.
Well, that's a legal question,
So,
not for Sonia, but my thing is whenever we provide something, we have to have a recourse for recapturing that.
so somebody asked you to do a search, said, okay, this is going to be lengthy. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to walk this through my head. And did you give them an estimate of what this might cost?
Yes.
And they said, continue on.
Yes.
Handed them a pile of papers. They paid the invoice. They took the papers home and then later decided, I don't want this, and notified their bank to put a hold on the payment to the county.
Yes.
Is that not illegal? Say you can or did. But answer my question. Is that not some kind of fraud or illegal
Well,
activity?
I think you'd have to have all the facts of what's gone on, and so there may be other facts which would show some sort of dispute that has arisen between the 2 sides.
Okay. Well, I mean, what dispute could there be? If I ask you to do something and you did it, and I received it, took it home with me, and later decided, it's not the information I was looking for, I still got to pay for it. They did the work.
The requester may argue that what they requested was not what they received. after going through the documents.
So you can or cannot enforce payment?
I'd have to speak with Ms. Sonia and look at that further.
Well, I mean, I guess how do you stop this from happening in the future? How can I go buy a new anything and take it home and say, this jacket doesn't fit. I just call my bank, say, hey, I'm going to keep the jacket, but I'm not going to pay you for it. What's the difference? Tell me.
Can I ask you this, Sonia? If somebody did that, Mr. Kush, you're talking about, can we not give them any more help, or can we stop them from ever coming back to our
You can, so,
list?
yes, sir. What the law states is that you can withhold future records requests until payment is received for the outstanding records they've got. And it's a little bit different because in most cases, the requester hasn't received the records. So you withhold future records requests until they pay for the records they requested but didn't receive. In this scenario, the requester received the records and then chose not to. And I did speak with Tony Chadwick, who is with the Open Records Council, because this is kind of a unique situation. And there is some recourse, obviously, that Nick and I can discuss to do that, but that is something that we can do. I've been advised that we can do. I don't know what that would look like, and that would really be a Nick question, not a Sonia, but I don't know if it would be something through civil, because what Ms. Chadwick said is it would be something that could be handled civilly if the county so chose.
I guess my question is, you opened up your statement with you and Nick were going to review the
Yes, we have to do that every 2 years.
So is there a way to stop this kind of action from happening in the future, whether it's a way to facilitate pay on the spot and try and stop somebody from just not liking what they get? And
I mean, that's what we'll have to look
Yeah.
at. That was my question to the Open Records Council, is that if that was something that we could add, because the law is kind of, if they haven't received the records, you can restrict future records, but in this scenario, they received the records, paid for them, so it's a little bit different.
know if they used the records once they received them?
It is my understanding that they did use some of the records, yes, but not all. I don't know what they were I mean, I know what they asked for, but I don't know what they were hoping to receive, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so if I did buy the sport coat, I told the bank I didn't like it, I want my money back, but that you saw me walking down the street with the sport coat on because I'm using it, that's fraud, right? I don't mind naming names. If this continues another 30 days, I don't mind naming names. So I hope this person gets their act together and pays what they're supposed to do, because I don't mind naming names.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Sonia. All right, Commissioners, there's on your iPads litigation report. Is there any questions? All right, let's move on. The last thing on our agenda is a delegation meeting. I have been informed that only one could make it. A lot of them are going to the inauguration, so I have decided to postpone that. And I will be getting with them and give you a date of when we can get together. Keep in mind that all I can do is request, cannot make. So just letting y'all know that. And is there any other business? Chairman Reed?
So many times we see on here where we are announcing a position's open where someone has retired. And we announced tonight a position on the Planning Commission where we do have a member that is retiring. And I just wanted to mention the fact of this individual that is retiring. And that individual is Marvin Whitworth. Marvin has served us well on the commission. He's done an outstanding job, and those of you that don't know Marvin, comes from Rockwell. That makes him a good man in my eye, but you know, he has served the county well. He was an agriculture teacher in Smyrna for many, many years, helping a lot of students in that field for many years. He farms in the Rockwell area. He's been active in so many different organizations within the county. He's been involved in the county quite a bit. And then he became a part of our planning commission, and I think has done an excellent job there, bringing a understanding of the rural area as well as the land that's located here within the county. So I wanted to give you that information. Marvin is stepping down. For the past year or so, he's been fighting a battle with leukemia. He has won that battle. It's now in remission, but yet he's needing to step down, I think, to be more with his family and doing things like that. But I just want to bring that to your attention. If you happen to run into Marvin, thank him for the job that he has done. I call him my first baseman. When I played baseball at Rockwell High School, I was third base, he was first base. So if you've ever been in that position, you understand the closeness between a third baseman and a first baseman. But I just wanted to give you credibility of who had stepped down from that position and what he has done for the county.
Anybody else? All right, we're adjourned.